Hi guys, let's try this. I'm zooming in. I want to see, I hope it's working. Some of the students are eating over there. That's a little gorgeous little beauty. Beauty or beauties. I like this one on the left. It's very pretty. She wants to show her pretty face to us. So far she's holding off. Maybe she knows that we want to see how pretty she is. She's very pretty, I think. I trust. There she is. Hello. She's looking at us now. There's another group. There. So anyway. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine.
What are you eating?
Lunch.
Lunch, okay. No beer?
No.
Okay, next time come here, we have a drink, okay? Next time, come this way, we have a drink. Okay? Okay, maybe in the evening. Okay. Where are you from? Oh, nice. Okay, okay. Very lovely. What's your name? Okay. Okay, good, good. Enjoy your lunch. Enjoy your lunch. Enjoy your lunch there, ladies. Everybody is busy eating. Okay, enjoy it. Okay, guys, I'm back here at my map of the world. As you can see, I'm here gonna talk about basically I want to talk about extinction, extermination, World War III, Armageddon, nuclear holocaust, whatever you want to call it, Mad Max 10, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's what we're going to discuss today, because it's all part of survival, my survival training. As you know, on a global scale or on a planetary scale, it doesn't matter if it's Holocaust, it doesn't matter if it's World War III or whatever. To you and me, that's not going to matter. What's going to matter to us is our own survival, first and foremost, I think. And how that's going to switch into this whole planetary scenario. So I'm going to discuss that today a little bit, just in broad, very broad strokes. Okay, I'm going to paint a picture in broad strokes. So the first thing, if you look at the map of the world, right, I'm just going to very quickly, any kind of, you know, World War III nuclear holocaust scenario is going to be here, where my hand is. You see that? That is called the Northern Hemisphere. Now, which is very densely populated. You see, there is Russia, there is China, there is Japan, here is Southeast Asia, Middle East, Europe, then North America and Central America. So, Northern Hemisphere is vastly populated or even overpopulated. And that is where there are 10, well, there used to be 10 nuclear powers, if you want to call them powers, in the world. North Korea has joined the club. It's there somewhere. I don't want to zoom in too far. India, Pakistan, China, of course, Russia. Then you have France in Europe and UK. Then you have North America. You will have USA, right? And the only country in the world in the southern hemisphere who had nuclear weapons, South Africa, my own country, but also the only country in the world to give up voluntary nuclear weapons. And the other country, of course, is Israel in the Middle East. Okay, so there you go. The nuclear powers. So there, all of them are in the northern hemisphere, guys. And so that's where the war is going to start, obviously. The first thing you've got to figure out is these so-called, these new 9 nuclear powers, they are going to be aiming their missiles at each other. That's the bottom line. And at their biggest enemies, you know. So the Chinese will probably be aiming most of their missiles at the USA, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, India. That's my guess. Not necessarily in that order, but more or less. Okay, Russia would be obviously aimed at, you know, the Russian population is all more or less concentrated in the west, near Europe. So it's going to be France, UK, it's going to be bearing the main brunt of Russian missiles, and then of course the U.S. U.S. probably the coastal areas, the east and the west coast, going to be really devastated, depending on how many nuclear submarines can get in there. I think in the Caribbean and so on. There may be a land invasion through Alaska. As you can see there, this is Russia. So a land invasion would follow here after the nuclear attack or whatever. Would be the Russians would definitely invade through Germany and into Europe, Poland. Same old story. That's going to unfold there. Then probably India, Pakistan is going to have their own little nuclear sideshow, maybe reinforced by China, who may decide to take care of India while Pakistan is at it, maybe assisted by the Russians. Russians and China will of course take out Japan, like I said, South Korea, all US allies. This is where President Duterte of Philippines is trying to get rid of his American bases and soldiers here in the Philippines. Because if once he gets rid of them, then probably Philippines will not suffer a nuclear attack. Australia and New Zealand, a lot of people seem to think New Zealand would be a safe place. Well, I beg to differ. Same ditto Australia. Australia has American bases, military bases. It's an important country in Western Alliance, one of the top 2 or 3 staunchest allies of the U.S. So for sure, and it's very underpopulated anyway. So I think 5 or 6 nuclear missiles will take care of all the main cities. And New Zealand will probably, I think there will be not much more than one nuclear missile needed to just clear up the capital city, not the capital, not Wellington, Auckland a little bit. The Chinese have already started their invasion of Australia and New Zealand long time ago, influx of immigrants. So there's not going to be much left to do for the Chinese military. I think New Zealand probably has 500,000 Chinese already. I don't know. They are very nationalistic, these Chinese nowadays, going abroad. They are like foot soldiers of the Chinese government. So if there is, let's say, 500,000 Chinese in New Zealand right now, and they can very easily double that to 1 million, and then they could very easily colonize New Zealand. They will probably want to, in case of a nuclear war, Holocaust, when the Chinese cities on the coast are going to be hard hit, and the survivors, they could probably squeeze about 100 million Chinese into Australia and New Zealand. That's my guess. Okay, so that's what they will keep. They will want to keep that place a little bit untouched as possible, or undamaged, so they could squeeze in about 100 million Chinese in there. Okay, so the 9 military, the 9 nuclear powers are going to be the places that you don't want to be. Okay, like I named the names there, and then in those countries, some of these countries are huge. I mean, Russia is an enormous country, right? So the population is concentrated along near Europe, but the rest of the country is empty. So there's probably quite a half of the population should survive quite easily in Russia, unblemished, I mean unscathed. In China it's very concentrated population, but there are huge territories in the interior, Tibet and the Uyghur territories. But these people are not welcoming to the Chinese. So once the popo hits the fan and the Chinese try to flood in there, is going to be another big conflict, internal. So which brings us to the second stage of the war, which first stage is going to be the bombardment, the raining down of missiles. It depends on how many missiles they will be able to get off. The US and Russia alone supposed to be sitting on 10,000, 15,000 missiles. Probably, I don't think they're going to get them all off. So let's say each country is going to drop 1,000 perhaps maximum. No more than 1,000 missiles each, on each other mostly, right? So that'll take care of, well then of course internally, the rest of the missiles stored internally, those might start to, I don't know if they can be activated or not. It's going to be, but they should be, most of them should be on the ground actually. So, but let's, the nuclear missile numbers, so it's China, I think, has around about a few hundred maybe. UK and France has around about 200 to 300 each. Israel probably around 100, and Pakistan and India also around about 100 each, and North Korea maybe 10 or 20. Which is enough to destroy South Korea totally, and big parts of Japan. So the countries that you really don't want to be in at all would be any of those countries I just mentioned, okay? And if you are there, and if you do survive it, and you survive the radiation, and you know, by summer, I know there's people are building these underground massive bunkers in the US and probably all in Russia, Japan, I don't know. But I mean, you know, people, even the so-called rich, there's no logic, there is no knowledge going on about survival whatsoever. You know, it's really nothing inside. It's like this guy Murdoch, the guy I told you who got ripped off by Wendy Deng, the Chinese gold digging woman. Majority, 99% of these billionaires and trillionaires, or what the fuck they are actually not intelligent people, especially when it comes to survival. I mean, you think about it. If I was an American, or if I was in one of these countries, right, what would I do? I would gather my group. I would train a group of guys. It could be any number, but it could be as few as 10, as 5 or 10 or 20. 100 is better, a couple of hundred. If you can get up to 1,000, you're pretty much done. You can do whatever you want. But okay, you have your group, solidly good, disciplined, well-trained guys. Now you get the intelligence. Where are these super bunkers, these super billionaire bunkers, where they're digging underground, huge underground bunkers full of food and water and pretty girls? Where are these bunkers? So the moment this attack hits, you make a beeline for that bunker. Let them spend their millions and billions to build these bunkers. All you need is a few guys with a few sticks of dynamite or you know, explosives, and you invite yourself to the party. That's it. It's simple as that. Okay, if they're gonna have a few bodyguards, they can't have too many bodyguards, because then that's more mouths to feed, and the bodyguards will kind of, you know, that's the thing about money. The moment this war goes off, money becomes valueless. Paper money will have no more value. So your bodyguards, your private army, is now going to be tied up to you, not via the power of money or the power of any authority. It's going to be via the power of your personality or loyalty that they feel towards you, which is not based on money. So right there, 99% of your bodyguards can easily turn on you when their families or their friends and they start to feel hungry, or they're dying. The bodyguard will think, hey, I got a gun in my hand, this fucking dude's, you know, he's built a bunker, why can't I push my own family in there, you see? So in countries like, I would say, like USA, Russia, China, these massive beam of countries, right, which is already very divided among many different groups, linguistic, cultural, color, race, religions. Once the central authority falls away, central government, then what's left over? You know, the policemen are not going to get paid anymore. The army is not going to get paid anymore. So what are they going to do? Everybody is going to be out for number one, me, myself, I, right? And It's going to be a messy situation. And funny enough, in this kind of situation, you know, gangsters, for example, these huge, massively powerful drug gangs along the U.S. border and inside the U.S., they will become very powerful. Prison gangs, I mean, prisons are not going to function anymore. You're going to have millions of inmates. The USA has the millions and millions of inmates. Your mate in the prison is going to become your mate outside the prison. He's going to come knocking on your door with his 100 or 200 or 1,000 or 10,000 buddies with their big tattoos, big muscles. And he's going to become your mate outside, or want to be your mate outside the prison. I don't know if you're going to invite him into your house, into your storage, into your bunker, into your pantry. With, you know, he wants to get his hands on your food. So all these kind of scenarios are going to start to unfold in case of this kind of calamity. So what is the first step you can do to survive this calamity? What is the very first thing you got to figure out? The first thing you got to figure out, you want to survive the nuclear holocaust, right? If there's going to be a nuclear war, so you want to get yourself out of these countries that I just mentioned. You know, the nuclear powers themselves, their closest neighbors, and so on. You don't want to be there. Number one. Number two. The nuclear holocaust could be followed by a conventional war, probably likely, very likely. The Chinese would definitely attack their, you know, the neighbors, or the Russians would attack Europe. The American army would probably try to resist the Europeans, but they will be flooded. The Russians, and with, let's say, a few million Chinese soldiers, will flood over Europe, and it's going to be a game of survival. You're going to have to be. It depends on how they do the bombardment. Like I said, the initial nuclear impact. If it's selective, if it was indiscriminate, if it was aimed at cities or only at military bases, or mostly, it's going to be all the capital cities are going to be gone. If you live in London, Paris, Washington D.C., you're a goner. You got to get out of that fucking place soon. Seoul, Tokyo, and so on, right? You don't want to be there. Now, the most basic rule of survival is going to be go south. Go south. You want to be in the southern hemisphere, because even if you do survive a nuclear holocaust, you know, let's say 1,000 to 2,000 nuclear missiles, bombs explode all over the northern hemisphere. It's going to have massive impact on the environment, which is going to be very detrimental to food production. If you live in a big city, any big city, even if it wasn't hit by a nuclear explosion, no big city in the world has supplies for longer than 4 days, maximum a week. After a week, there will be each and every city, major city that's with, you know, will have no more food. There will be no more food. There will be no more food coming in. The supply lines. Each city is relying on supply lines that could be 1,000 kilometers or thousands of kilometers long. These supply lines will be cut off straight away. The supermarkets will be plundered straight away. 2, 3, 4 days down the line, people will be starving. So then there's going to be a massive stampede to the suburbs, from the suburbs, massive stampede into the countryside. Now, paradoxically, the smaller towns would be much more ready, able, and willing to survive this massive holocaust, right? Because the people, there will be farmers, there will be much more, they could have maybe solar power, electricity, or whatever, or they are much more well armed, much more well organized, much more in union than people in the cities. People living next to each other don't know each other. So in a city, you're not going to be able to trust hardly anyone. I mean, your neighbors, you won't be able to trust them. How do you know he's not going to kick your door in and blow your fucking head off and take whatever food you have, and then take your wife and your daughter, you know, by and by. So in the cities are going to be totally chaotic. It's going to be, and the gangs are going to rise to the top. The drug gang, like I just described, the drug gangs, all the gangs, they're very well organized. They're ruthless. They're already So yeah, so you're gonna have to form your own gang or be part of a gang to survive in a city, and you're gonna know how to use weapons, all of that stuff, right? If you're outside the city, you're gonna be invaded by waves and waves of survivors from the cities. So that's going to be the other major problem happening, even if you're not in the city. So what is the solution to all of this, except for learning self-defense, getting prepared, getting yourself organized in groups? Groups are going to be make or break, you know. I mean, I look at myself. If I'm alone, I can take on 5 to 10 guys with bare hands or simple weapons, right? If it's firearms involved, let's say I'm up against 10 guys, each one of them, I have a gun and they have guns. If I'm a sniper and I've got my positions prepared, I can probably pick them off. If I know the environment, I got my positions set up, I'm a good sniper, I got a good enough gun with enough bullets, ammunition. So then you can do it, right? But if there are 2 of us, me and another guy, then we can double our strength. If we're 5 of us, you can see where the logic is going, right? So it's all about groups. You got to get yourself into groups, very highly reliable people that you can trust behind your back, and then your chance of survival will increase massively. Of course, you want to rather be in places where you can avoid most of these things. So that's, like I said, Southern Hemisphere. First and foremost, like I already discussed, Australia and New Zealand, pretty much they're going to be colonized by the Chinese. And they're going to be nuked as well. The country that I would recommend to you would be so-called sub-Saharan Africa, which is very nice. You can grow food, huge land mass available, lower population. The best country here would be obviously South Africa, very well organized, very strong army, can't be invaded from anywhere in the world. So South Africa would be the #1 country in the world if you want to survive this kind of scenario, because it's a very well organized society. Ubuntu, people have a community spirit, strong army, lot of surplus food exporter. That you have to look at that. We don't need to import food. We make energy from coal, for example. We make oil from coal, the only country in the world. There is solar energy, solar power stations, huge coastline, big long coastline with a lot of fishing and stuff. The neighboring country is Namibia, 1 million people, Botswana, 1 or 2 million